Despite its scripted nature, professional wrestling is still a sport like any other, and injuries are unfortunately bound to happen. All it takes is one botched move or one missed spot for someone to get seriously injured or worse. Today it's time to look at 20 times where performers had to save each other from potentially life-threatening situations. Number 20, Chris Jericho. On the 8th of May edition of SmackDown in 2009, Jeff Hardy, who was the #1 contender for Edge's World Championship, had a match against Chris Jericho. If Jericho won the match, he'd be added to the world title match with Hardy and Edge at that year's Judgment Day pay-per-view. Hardy went to perform his signature move, the Whisper in the Wind, and accidentally slipped while on the top rope. Jericho, being the GOAT he is, felt that something wasn't right with Hardy and managed to save him from landing awkwardly on his back by slightly pushing him so that he can regain control. Number 19, RYBACK. As we all know, RYBACK has been given a lot of criticism over his opinions and his lack of in-ring ability. But there's one thing he should be applauded for, and that ironically enough happened in his last match with the WWE. RYBACK challenged Kalisto to a US Championship match in 2016 at the Payback pay-per-view. He managed to save the champion from what could have been a serious back injury. Kalisto was performing a springboard second rope high-flying maneuver to the outside of the ring, but didn't quite get enough leap to reach RYBACK. Seeing that Kalisto was about to slam his spine against the apron, RYBACK moved rapidly and caught Kalisto in his arms and lowered him towards the ground. Number 18, AJ Styles. On the October 18, 2016 edition of SmackDown, WWE Champion AJ Styles was allowed to choose whom he'd like to face in a non-title match. As the arrogant heel that he was, he obviously chose comedy act jobber James Ellsworth, thinking it would essentially be a night off. As Styles tried to finish off Ellsworth with his Styles Clash, Ellsworth instinctively tucked his non-existent chin inside. Styles then noticed at the very last second that Ellsworth tucked his head incorrectly and managed to hit the mat with his arms and knees before James's head even made contact with it. If he didn't save him, James Ellsworth would have suffered a severe injury. Number 17, Jericho again. Ladder matches can always be dangerous, especially because of the height that's involved. Even though Kane saved his opponent in a ladder match before that we'll get to later, years prior, Kane was actually the one saved in a ladder match this time around. This happened when the Raw Roulette forced the tag team champions at the time to defend their titles in an 8-man tag team TLC match. At the end of the match, the ladder was wobbling with Kane trying to grab the titles. Chris Jericho was on the mat selling his pain and could be seen using his feet hold the ladder in place. If Kane fell, it could have led to a brutal injury since his size would make the impact even worse. Number 16, Triple H. Because of its open nature, nothing is stopping the fans from jumping the barricade to try and get a 1-minute moment of fame. Fans running into the ring can become dangerous for everyone involved. Wrestlers clearly have the physical strength to deal with it most of the time, but no one can predict what some individuals could be capable of in such scenarios. The most well-known incident happened during a live event in 1998. Triple H took it seriously when a fan rushed the ring during his match against Steve Austin. The fan started assaulting Austin but was immediately taken down by Triple H with a German suplex, after which he started punching the man before the referee joined in and started kicking him. Austin likely would have held his own, but someone legitimately attacking him from behind could have posed a threat to injuries or worse. Number 15, John Cena. John Cena is one of the most experienced and safest wrestlers in the history of the sport, and he showed this once again at SummerSlam in 2013 in his match with Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. Bryan and Cena were on the top turnbuckle when the American Dragon went to execute a Hurricane Rana off the top turnbuckle, which Cena managed to reverse. The weird thing here is that he was trying to reverse it into a Boston Crab submission, which is impossible to do effectively since, you're on a turnbuckle. Afterwards, John realized the mistake and had to somehow make his way onto the mat while holding Bryan in an awkward position. But Cena, being Super Cena, managed to incredibly fall down from the turnbuckle without Bryan's head even touching the mat, which would have definitely seen him retire earlier than he did if things went wrong over here. Number 14, Wade Barrett. Dolph Ziggler seems to be very unlucky when it comes to danger in the ring. He was in danger of getting injured in 2012 when he was a part of a Battle Royal match to determine the #1 contender for the WWE title. The danger happened when Big Show was tasked with grabbing Ziggler and throwing him outside the ring onto Wade Barrett and R-Truth, who were eliminated. Big Show accidentally threw Dolph too hard and it seemed like he was going to smash into the announce table ribs first if it wasn't for Barrett, who managed to break his fall. This resulted in Wade dislocating his shoulder and missing 8 months of action, but thankfully Dolph was saved from what could have been a major injury. Number 13, Edge. Communication is thought to be one of the most important aspects of the sport we all love, and this is no different when it comes to preventing injuries. A recent example of this can be spotted at the 2020 Royal Rumble when Rated R superstar Edge made his long-awaited return to the ring after he retired because of the injury back in 2011. After he came in at number 21, Edge entered the ring and started delivering spear after spear to every opponent in the ring. Unfortunately, when it came for AJ Styles to take the spear, he oversold the move and ended up dislocating his shoulder. After that, we can see Edge and AJ communicating with each other, where AJ told Edge that he can't continue and that he should throw him out, which is exactly what Edge did perfectly. Number 12, ASUKA. On an episode of Raw, ASUKA took on Sasha Banks in a match, and during the middle of it, Sasha Banks went for a suicide dive. Unfortunately, her legs got caught up in the ropes and it looked like she was going to land on her neck. Thankfully though, ASUKA went in and kicked her in order to give her something to grab onto so she can redirect her fall. It worked in the end, and Sasha Banks prevented any injuries. Number 11, Undertaker. One of the most dangerous looking wrestling moves is the last ride. The move is so dangerous that the Undertaker is one of the only people who've done the move on a regular basis. The difference that it has with a normal powerbomb is that the last ride requires Taker to lift the opponent even higher in the air than normal, which means that the opponent is thrown down with force into the mat on his back from around 3 to 4 meters high. There's only been one example where Taker nearly botched the move and nearly injured his opponent, and that was against Test. Because of Test's heavyweight nature, it was hard for the Undertaker to lift him higher in the air, and he ultimately lost his balance. Test could have easily suffered an injury if the Undertaker didn't wisely move backwards and lean on the ropes to gain better control before executing the move like a true veteran. Number 10, HBK. Shawn Michaels and Rey Mysterio are two of the biggest names in wrestling history. Even though the two only had a couple matches together, and despite their incredible in-ring talent and professionalism, they still managed to nearly create a dangerous incident. That happened on the January 29th, 2010 edition of SmackDown when Mysterio launched himself and tried to hit Shawn with a springboard move, which ultimately ended up with a super kick from Shawn Michaels. This is a spot that happens a ton of times, especially in the modern day, but what made this particular spot dangerous is that Shawn Michaels is seen deliberately not extending his foot to the fullest when kicking Rey. This was later explained that if he had kicked Rey with his leg extended, it would have probably damaged Rey's neck and head, resulting in a concussion and maybe even worse. Number 9, Randy Orton. Alexa Bliss's dark character, which was a result of Bray Wyatt taking an interest in her, became one concept that fans didn't really like and criticized heavily. The criticism would have been even higher if Alexa Bliss had accidentally set fire to a referee, which is what nearly happened on an episode of Raw. While having a match against AJ Styles, Randy Orton was distracted by Alexa's appearance on the main screen. She then went ahead and used her dark powers to cast fire out of the ring post. Before the fire came out, the referee of the match was standing a bit too close to the ring post and was surely going to get injured if Orton wasn't there to tell him to get out of the way to avoid being in the range of the fire. But he managed to see Randy Orton's cue and got out of the way just in time. Number 8, Kane. The Money in the Bank match is one of the most exciting matches for fans to watch each year because of its opportunistic concept and the spectacular spots that it can produce. But for the competitors, it's one of the most dangerous matches to compete in because there's a lot of weapons involved as well as a lot of heights. At the Money in the Bank pay-per-view in 2010, Kane's experience in the ring proved to be vital in making sure Dolph Ziggler didn't break his leg when he was supposed to go over the top rope and through a ladder that was sitting ringside. While being thrown out, Ziggler's leg got caught in between the ropes. As evil as Kane is, he helped Dolph get out of that uncomfortable position and made sure no harm was done to his leg. Number 7, Edge again. In the year 2000, legendary tag teams Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boys were feuding with each other. And on an episode of Raw in 2000, Christian and Devon were having a match which ended in a post-match battle between the two tag teams and also the Hardy Boys. A spot was planned to happen where Bubba and Matt Hardy were going through a table, but for some reason, in the actual moment, a chair was just laying on their respective table. Edge quickly saw the danger and removed the chair, which seems like a weird thing to do for enemies, but a correct action to take when wanting to prevent your co-workers from getting injured. Number 6, Paige. Probably the most incredible safe wrestling example in history was when Paige and AJ were feuding back in 2014 and had a match even though AJ had herniated 3 discs in her spine a week beforehand. AJ, being the warrior she is, risked her spine and went ahead with the match, and the two women put on an incredible match where Paige made sure that AJ would take no bumps at all. This shows to what lengths wrestlers can go to put on an entertaining but also safe match, and how good Paige was in the ring before she had to retire in 2018. Number 5, Apollo Crews. US champion Damian Priest and Apollo Crews had a match on an episode of Raw in 2021. Even though the two had a good match, this nearly wasn't the case. Diving sentons outside the ring seems to have become a dangerous move in recent years, as again it nearly injured another wrestler, this time around Damian Priest. Priest tried to perform the move while launching himself from the steel steps and nearly landed on his neck. Luckily enough, Apollo managed to catch him and sold the move by landing on his back, which meant that he potentially saved Priest from a career-ending injury. Number 4, McIntyre. Braun Strowman is known for his monstrous size and surprisingly good athleticism in the ring. These two qualities, though, nearly cost him his in-ring career. At WrestleMania Backlash 2021, Braun and Drew challenged WWE Champion Bobby Lashley to a match for the WWE Championship. And during the match, both Drew and Bobby were outside the ring, and Strowman, seeing the opportunity, attempted to perform a diving senton bomb from the apron of the ring onto both opponents. The impact he had when hitting them slowed down, and he wasn't able to position himself correctly, which made him nearly go headfirst onto the floor. When he realized that, Drew adjusted Braun's position so that he would land on his shoulder instead. Fortunately for him, he didn't injure any part of his body, but didn't manage to capture the title from Lashley. Number 3, Randy Orton. In 2017, Jinder Mahal was surprisingly given a monster push by Vince McMahon, which put him in the world title picture. And so he got into a feud with WWE Champion at the time. Jinder and the Singh brothers assaulted Randy Orton, and they went to finish him off with the Khallas finishing move. However, as Mahal went to execute the move, Orton realized that he and Jinder were in danger of being dropped on the WWE title belt, which was laying in the ring. At the moment, the veteran quickly kicked the belt out of the way, managing to save him and Mahal from any potential injury. Randy Orton's quick thinking and presence of mind showed why he is one of the most respected athletes in the business. Number 2, Brodie Lee. One spot that showed why Luke Harper, aka Brodie Lee, was one of the most respected and loved wrestlers backstage happened in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania 35. Harper was supposed to have a spot with Mustafa Ali and Braun Strowman where he would pick up Ali for a suplex where he would get kicked, eliminating both him and Ali. However, Braun Strowman missed the cue, and then when Ali and Harper went to do the suplex again, he kicked too soon, which nearly made Ali fall with half of his back on the announce table, which would have surely resulted in a broken back. Harper, being the professional he was, managed to rotate Ali so that he wouldn't even touch the table, saving his career in the process. And number 1, Mr. Perfect. The slickest save on this list was made by Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig himself, on an episode of Nitro in 1997. Hennig was competing in a match against Chris Jericho, and all was fine until Jericho botched his signature lion salt move, something that rarely happens. After he launched from the second rope, Jericho seemed to have bent his back too much, which would have resulted in him landing on the back of his head, potentially breaking his neck. Seeing this, Curt immediately raised his knees and made it look like he simply reversed the move, saving Chris Jericho from a devastating injury. Had it not been for Curt Hennig, we might have never seen Chris Jericho in the rest of his career. Anyways, that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.